Hello, everybody. Let me stop that. And welcome to Sportcat's Daily Gazette. Hello, Wendell. Hello, Denise. Welcome. I want to remind everybody that we are also live on Yerg's Radio. You can go over there and check out Yerg's stuff at yergsradio.com. That's YERGZ. And, of course, you can find us on Rainbow Radio. And we're live on YouTube and Twitch, Kicked, I don't know, a couple other places. So, yeah, this is going to be our morning news show, I guess. I don't know. The theory of my show is if you go online and look, there are so many shows out there that are prepper shows, survival shows, news shows, and they all tell you about why the world's going to end tomorrow. So my show is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to be like, okay, the adults are in charge. The kids can go mow the lawn. That we survived another day. There's nothing wrong with prepping. There's nothing wrong with being prepared. This isn't a political show, whether I'm left, right. I don't even know the difference, to be honest with you. I'm red or blue still. Don't know the difference. Don't really care. We survived another day, and that's important to us, our kids, our family. And so there's a whole lot of things going on. Since I'm backing off of, hey, Chris. Yes, I am back. Everybody, Chris, you hadn't reminded me, but everybody, please hit that thumbs up button. Like, follow, share, and subscribe. So since I'm coming in after Ross, he was talking about the Musk email, which I wasn't really going to talk about this because it didn't affect me, but it may have affected me, but we'll get to that. So Elon Musk said, I think that this email dropped Friday at news time so that they would get this first thing in the morning Monday. But the press, of course, got it because he put it on X and, he likes to talk, which is okay. It says, please reply to this email with approximately 5 bullets of what you accomplished last week and CC carbon copy your manager. And, of course, do not send any classified information. Links are attachment. You have till Monday, which is today, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So a lot of people, I think, are taking this the wrong way. Because there's a couple of things here that you kind of need to look at. First off, there's 5 million government workers. Do you think he's going to read every one? I mean, honestly, do you think he's going to read every single email? No, he's not. He's trolling. He's looking to see who's out there, what emails bounce, who replies, who doesn't. And it's also a good check for the managers. If they know I've got 20 employees, they may not all work here, but they're working from home. And 16 of them replied. Where are they? What's going on? So it's kind of giving a way to filter. He can't terminate. He doesn't hold that power. Thank God. So I think it's just more of a trolling thing. And some of the directors, I think Homeland, I think I heard Ross say Secret Service. I'm not sure. I know the FBI and ATF stood up and said, don't reply, which I think is good. I think it was an appropriate response because, well, they deal with stuff we probably don't need to know about or he needs to know about. So I think it was a good reply. It's like, okay, cool. Thanks for the email. We got this. So I think that was a respectful way of doing it rather than just, going out there like a bull in a china shop and saying, oh, no. We don't do that. So I think that was an appropriate way to respond. That's just my opinion. I don't know. The 5 bullet points. I don't even know that I give you 5 bullet points of what I did last week. So, like I said, I think it's just a troll thing, personally, but that's just me. All right, well, the government workers will bring me to my point that apparently sends out the FEMA daily briefing must not have answered their email because the last one we have, as you can see, is from Sunday, February 23rd. That's yesterday at 8:30 a.m. So FEMA didn't give their information. Can I make that bigger? Oh, I can do that. That's kind of cool. Can I move myself over there? No, I can't. Okay, well, that's fine. So basically, there's some things in here that alarm me because it talks about there's no news significant things, but they do have some hazards. Freezing rain in the northern Rockies, lower Mississippi Valley, heavy rain, flash flooding in the Pacific Northwest, and there's no significant events. I find that interesting, and we'll talk about that. Of course, here's supposed to be the weather for today, where they talked about the rain in the south and the snow in the Midwest sorry, it's not Midwest. That's the upper West Coast, and how it's going to continue through Monday and Tuesday. So, and there's your precipitation and rainfall guesstimate by FEMA. We have more than one agency that does this. That's funny. So, let's see. What do we got? Long range. They're talking about the temperatures here. I look froze on my screen. Am I froze on my screen? Oh, I am froze. All right, well, hold on a second. Well, if you can hear me, let me know if I'm still, because my screen's frozen, which is kind of weird. So I don't know what's going on. Well, I will work through this. Bobby Dizzle, if you can, if I am still live, give me a thumbs up, an emoji, or something. I love technical difficulties right in the middle of the show, or at the middle, in the beginning of the show. What the heck is going on? The government doesn't want me to report things. Okay, I'm somewhat back. Okay, I don't know what happened. I'm showing a huge delay here. All right. Welcome, Bobby. All right, so 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. We have several departments, as I said, that do the same thing. They tell the weather and stuff. I hope they get this down. Space weather outlook. That's where you're going to get your HF communications are impacted by sunspots or solar storms. Here's what I want to get to, which kind of perplexes me. This is where they show the active events and what's going on. And of course, we see all the potential hazards. But down here, damage assessments. Okay, well, that's great. We have West Virginia, Virginia, and Louisiana. But then you come down here. Where's California? Where's Tennessee? Where's Kentucky? Where's North Carolina? It's not there. Why? Why is it not there? I don't understand that. So that's something that perplexes me. Why is it not there? And it's something else I got to thinking about last night. We were talking about people were without power. Well, we've heard for how long that people were without power. They're showing in North Carolina only 2,788 customers are out at this particular moment. What about California? 9,496. So obviously something is still going on there, but why is FEMA not involved? Do they have a different office that does that? You know, Florida is still affected by the hurricane. Look, they have more people that have damage there from the storm, and they have more people, you know, without power right now, 7,122. Well, I don't understand where they get these numbers. West Virginia, I understand they only have 488, Chris. They only have 488 people without power. So it's because there's not many people there, I think. So, but yeah, I just don't understand where they get their numbering from. So that just, it interests me. We know in California, we lost whole towns, and they're not showing, but just, you know, not a percentage. They're just saying they're out. Who's handling that? Who takes care of that? Boy, my computer's either really running slow or the internet is something. All right, so that also brought me up to, there was a news story out of Nebraska. Apparently a fire broke out and caused a very large portion of Nebraska to be without power. And oh, that's funny. Chris says that she is causing most of the damage. And yeah, and then Wendell agreed. So good, that's funny. Yeah, Antler could be. Cheyenne could be. But in North Nebraska, if you're listening North Nebraska, please don't be offended. Nebraska, Thursday, they had an explosion and there was a large power outage. And people were without power for up to 4 days. in certain areas. Whole cities were without power. There was an explosion with fire, and they really don't have a reason for it happening besides for its result of cold temperatures causing stress on the system. Power. Denise says power is back in Mississippi. I don't think it's because it's there because FEMA really did help North Carolina or Tennessee. No, they didn't, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is they've dropped off their even daily ops, and they shouldn't. I don't agree with that. So, and we didn't say anything about this, and this was just Thursday that they had this power outage, and they were without for 4 days. Where was the national news reporting that? This was a large portion of the state was without power in negative degree temperatures. So where was the coverage on this? Nobody talked about it. That perplexes me. Some things just drop off off of the system, and that's kind of what annoys me. That's kind of what got me doing this. So anyhow, they have their power back now in Nebraska and North Nebraska. So luckily they were able to re-engineer, according to the article, the problem, but we didn't know about it. We should have heard something about that, it seems to me. And I'm not going to allude that it could have been terrorists. It could have been a squirrel. It could have been, like I said, overage of their system. So I would have guessed that's probably what it is, but who knows? We'll never know. All right, and I'd just like to show this. We had a rash of plane crashes in the past. At any point in time above us, there's a very large city. This is just over the continental United States, lower 48. There's a whole lot of air traffic overhead, whether it's commercial, transporting our goods and services, general aviation, military, or just people flying to vacation or to see their loved ones. It's a lot of people. So it looks like it's moving fairly well today. So, all right. And then I was also going to show this. This I find interesting because this is the ships that are at sea currently. I think we don't realize how our goods get around. And as you can see from Temu. So, by the way, I got a package I need to return to Temu and nobody's answering. But yeah, so I find that interesting that a lot of people forget about it. And if you look down here, we're one of the places we were particularly interested in, Panama. Look, it's very busy down there. So, well, if you think about it, there's only so many ways to get around this big old block of land. And if we were to take control of that country to our north, we could control a straightaway that would allow people to go above the United States rather than just below. So it's one of the, plus it's a key military asset. Do I think we'll do it? Do I think we should do it? Two different things. I mean, I always welcome our neighbors to the north, but I don't know that we need to take over a country. We have to take care of. So, all right. So we'll get into a little bit of politics today. What is the president doing today? Well, he started his day off bright and early at 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. He met with the French president, and it's currently 1:19. So he's greeting the French president. They're probably having lunch. He's having a bilateral meeting with the president of the French Republic. And yeah, lunch. So they're at lunch right now. And then they're going to have a press conference at 2:00. We won't carry it, but they will have a press conference. So that's his day. We already touched on the weather briefly, the forecast map. And if you've ever wondered what your air quality is like, well, there you go. most of the air in the country today sucks. And I did a little homework on this, and some of it is because of smoke. And I didn't realize that. Smoke is causing a large portion of the problems of the air in the South and, of course, in the West. I didn't realize that. You can go and pull up. There's another total map that shows the flow of smoke and how it travels across our country. So all these things I'm showing you are public domain. The websites are up here. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple or Amazon, which I hope you are, please subscribe over there to the podcast. You can always email me at sportcat@protonmail.com, and I'll send you any of the links. These are all public domain. So we get into what's going on in the world. Well, there's a lot going on in the world. So Arkansas, severe weather with rains up in the Northeast, up in Pennsylvania. A social incident. Officer killed and a gunman took hostages at the Pennsylvania hospital. That's right. We're going to talk about officers killed in the line of duty. There was that on, was that Saturday or Sunday? Saturday, I believe. No, it was Sunday. Fire in built environment. Okay, that's talking. It's a toxic plume of smoke over Camden. See, there's always things the news don't report. A water accident with 3 dead, 2 injured. I know in Atlanta today there was a crash with, I think, 7 injured and 1 killed on I-20. That's not on here. And another large fire with 6 injured in an apartment in Brooklyn. Let's see, Chris, if there's anything up by you. No, Chris, you look good today. How many people died over the weekend in Chicago? And biological I can't even pronounce that. In the park, in the cattle herds. That's something else we're going to be talking about in the near future is our food supply. We know our chickens right now are a commodity, and we know that the eggs are almost $1 an egg, depending on where you live. And it's going to take a while to fix that because the chicks got to grow up. But there's also a problem with the breeding of chicks. Did you know that a lot of the chicks were imported from other parts of the world? Why is that? Beef, I hear that a lot of the beef farmers are going to be basically setting back a little bit because they're not getting what they want. So they're not going to be releasing their stock to the market. So you're going to see beef prices raise soon. So yeah, our food supply is in question. There's also some talk of, how can I say this without YouTube censoring me? They're going to be jabbing the animals. They can't control us humans by injecting things into our body any longer, but they're going to inject it into our food supply. It's going to be a thing. So, LAX, they had a plane land yesterday because they had smoke on board. Yeah, it's always good that it made it safely. Was it a Delta plane? A dozen sea lions. Why more than a dozen? 6 sea lions. How do you know if a sea lion's sick? I don't know. I understand TikTok's been going off on why you're not. It's not legal for you to communicate with dolphins. Why? Why can't you communicate with dolphins? I don't understand. And let's see. Measles outbreak. They've had a measles outbreak and a listeria outbreak in Texas, which isn't very good. The listeria outbreak we'll discuss a little bit here after a while. That affects our nursing homes because the food that it was in is a common product used in nursing homes. Yeah. Excessive rainfall. And then we can just zoom out and see what's going on in the rest of the world. My computer's running really slow today. I don't know why. I haven't been here with it. Maybe it's upset. So as you can see, there's always in some of the other parts of the world all kinds of things. You can go check out the events. And of course, we know over in the Ukraine, there's the war. I understand overnight that Syria was bombed, but they were bombing the Russian bases in Syria. So the Russians were under attack. It was a surprise attack. Well, that was on Israel, but there was a surprise attack on this Russian base that it was Iran that did it, or their agencies that back it, but nobody's claimed credit yet. Hopefully the peace talks will continue. Hopefully we can get that settled. It would be nice for us to not get involved, our neighbors to the east to get involved in a war, and for Russia to stop being aggressive, and Ukraine to stop being aggressive. Yes, I said it. Yeah, they'll censor me. All right, so we'll move on to the next thing. Hopefully, as I close some of these windows, the computer will speed up, or I will slow down, one or the other. I know it's going to cause me to stress out. That's what it's going to do. Here's a look at the current weather map with any alerts that we have down there where Ross is. They're getting a little rain, but there's no significant warnings. We see the winter warnings up in Washington and Oregon, up into Canada, from what looks like a significant snowfall coming in. The little blue dots are earthquakes that have occurred. So in the middle of the country, it looks kind of dry. Rain or snow. All right, so we'll move on from that because there's not a whole lot to report there. I mean, everybody watches the weather, right? All right, I brought this one up because this is the conflict zone and risk database. And Ross said we were going to be carried in Australia, and I found this one interesting. Basically, the Chinese Navy went and encircled Australia and started having live fire training exercises. Now, that caused alarm because they were given no notice. There was no international notice. And so it caused quite a stir in Australia, as it should have. So I found that interesting. Why would the Chinese be doing that? Well, Australia is one of our allies, and maybe they don't want us to get involved in their politics. One, but over here in Russia, Syria, Iran, Israel, the Chinese this is on the drone attacks, the fighting. Russian aviation is conducting airstrikes, and people in Poland are concerned. They're going further into Ukraine. I'm not going to cover the war in Ukraine because you can turn on your evening news and get a lot about that. I just want you to be aware that there's places you can go and you can see if you're going to travel or if you're going to have relatives visit someplace. You can go online and look and see what's going on in other parts of the world. I did find this alert down here in the United States. Kind of interesting. Well, it wasn't the Russian aviation. I don't know why it said that. There we go. I think the computer's just responding slow. Okay, well, troops for peacekeeping missions in Ukraine. Well, it's kind of nice of us to volunteer in other countries' troops. I would prefer if we all stayed out of that. So I guess that's what that breaking news bulletin was. Over in New York, it's talking about the UN. The peace deal agreement is at the UN. So maybe they'll make it. Maybe they'll keep it. Let's hope so. I hope they get peace in Israel where they can keep it too. All right, we're going to get into more of my cup of tea here. This is current events that have been occurring in the United States in the past 24 hours. Like up by Chris, they had a fire, and it was just a dwelling fire. Some of these are significant incidents. Houston County, Georgia, kitchen fire. Some of them are very small. Fire in a one-story house. Texas has had several fires. Plano, 2-alarm fire. Dallas, one alarm, 1-story fire. Out in Los Angeles. Person struck by train. I read about that one last night. Over in DC, we have a stabbing. Something else I want to talk about. Hey, KG, welcome. No, I did actually get a little late start, but luckily you can go back and rewind it. Thanks for dropping in, Ken. Please hit the thumbs up, likes, follow, share, and subscribe. This is something I was going to talk about. In DC, there was a number of persons stabbed, and they didn't catch the guy. We need to be self-aware, especially females, and I'm not saying it to be sexless or masculine, but we're going to start seeing a lot more knife attacks. In addition to people driving cars into crowds, but that's another story. And as you can see, another stabbing in New York City. There's multiple stabbings. This is something that's going to be a trend, and we need to be aware of. Buffalo, New York is stabbing, and there's several fires up in the northeast area there. What was this one? Man who fell off roof, CPR in progress. Okay, interesting. So yeah, we're going to talk about the stabbings here a little bit more in a second, because it's something we need to worry about. Okay, the listeria outbreak that we talked But as you can see here, yes, purple is very high up in Maine and New Hampshire. Very high influenza rate. South Carolina, very high. Most of the South is pretty high. Some of the South has gotten into very high. So we can see that the only places kind of safe right now from the flu are the Virgin Islands and Alaska, Puerto Rico. So yeah, we're experiencing it. I'm not going to say anything about if you took your flu shot or not. That's personal preference. There's a lot of the outbreaks there. We're also, this adds the COVID in with them. And you can see by the size of them or the color of the dot what they are. That's the listeria outbreak down in Texas. Los Planos, Texas. I'm going to learn how to speak. Me and Ross talked about this earlier. I've got to learn to speak English if I'm going to be doing a radio show. We have up here in Illinois for Chris. Let me bring it up. Yep, the COVIDs. So the COVID is apparently striking in Chicago pretty heavy. Probably, if I'm going to guess, in DC as well. Washington Post says that women have a higher risk for long COVID. Interesting. Okay. Long COVID is a serious thing. Chris says, I apologize for possibly helping spread the flu in my area. It's okay, Chris. It's okay. Here is the old COVID map. The site is actually still up and providing information. And you can see down here by their 1 to 9 deaths is the striped lines. Chris, so far, you've only had 1% of COVID deaths. And that's only up by 0.3%. And still here in the South, we're having a little bit of problem with the COVID. And of course, it's cold throughout the middle of the country, and up into the West, they're having some problems with it too. So COVID is still a thing and is still around. It's going to be with us for a long time until our bodies get adapted to it. This is respiratory illnesses. Chris, you're not as high on respiratory. No, that's Illinois. Sorry. You're not. I'm sorry. That was Indiana. You're not as high in respiratory illnesses as some parts of the country. Alabama, where Bobby is, apparently, it's very low. And it's because they're not yelling at the football screen. West Virginia, up where Cheyenne is, respiratory illnesses are at a high rate. Ken, you're in an area where it's just high. We're here in Georgia, it's just moderate. And, you know, our government monitors everything. And I didn't realize this until I started paying for my mother's trash service, because they didn't have a trash service in Knox County that comes to your house. You have to take it to the dump. And my mother's getting elderly, so I called around. I was like, hey, I know we're out in the boonies, but get somebody to pick up our trash for Mom. And so Mom, like probably 90% of us, or especially the little ladies, she puts her recycles in a little shopping bag and ties it off, and then she takes it and puts it out into the recycling bin in the little plastic Kroger's bag, Safeway bag, whatever. And I get an email from the garbage company telling me that I have violated the rules with a video of the trash. And it showed, it actually showed the truck pulling up, picking it up and dropping it off, and it was filming all the contents. And like I said, Mom had just taken and put her aluminum cans and boxes in the little Kroger's Safeway bag, tied them off and threw them in the recycling bin. Apparently you can't recycle the bags. Two of our largest pollutants are those damn plastic bags. Please start using paper, or get ones you always can carry. So that and the little coffee things. Those are 2 largest pollutants, but they're not recyclable. So they were going to fine me for every one of them. They were videotaping my mother's trash. Ken says it's too weird. He was reading about old COVID 2019 news cartoons. Yep, it's still a thing, Ken. So this shows they're measuring our waste. And so to put that in a medical term, they're analyzing our sewage that's coming out of our house to see what is happening to us and how sick we are, or what type of viruses are in the areas. I just find it so strange. They video your trash, they analyze your poo. I don't get it. Emergency department visits, where they're the highest. Currently, they're highest in the South and the Northeast, and pretty much straight down the middle of the country because of the flu and respiratory illnesses. Chris, in Illinois, yours is declining. Here in Georgia, we're declining, but it was really high. So places like Tennessee wasn't changing. I think it's people don't go to the friggin' doctor there. I'm speaking from experience for the past 5 weeks. See, I think that was all of that one, but I did just want to, I just found it so interesting that they analyze our waste. Yeah, the government, we pay for that. Why? Hopefully they won't answer the email. All right, I know Chris likes the top scores in some things, so I brought it up, the top scores in basketball. Well, actually, let's show yesterday's because today's hasn't happened yet. I don't think there was anything too exciting or any upsets in college basketball. NBA, I don't really follow it. Don't know. Women's college basketball, that's going to be, we're going to get to the March Madness here soon. I always look forward to that in both the men's and women. I understand they had a photo finish in the NASCAR race in Atlanta under a caution, which apparently caused a stir. And I do not know who the winner was. I guess I could pull it up, but I guess it was Christopher Bell by 0.015 seconds. All right. So there's that. And I thought this was news, especially Ken, you'll enjoy this. The Yankees are changing their infamous facial hair policy. If you remember, the Yankees were one of the few sports organizations that required you to have a haircut, be clean shaven, wear a suit and tie when out in public when representing the Steinbrenner family. Well, the now grandson is in charge, Hal, and he says they're going to change with the times and they're no longer banned. Yes, so you will start seeing Yankees with beards and long hair. And that's, they've changed. I think that policy was adapted way back in the 50s. So, yeah, and they've just kept it in the Steinbrenner family. If you were a Yankee, you dressed the... They're adapting with the time, but I was always proud to eat. I hate the Yankees, by the way. It was always something, though, when I would say, if you're going to become a Yankee, you got to clean up, you got to do your job, you got to look professional. They always kept tight ship. So it was one thing I always did respect for them. Okay, our legislators, they got to work at noon today. Don't you wish you could show up at work at noon today? And they took a recess, and now they're starting giving their speeches at around lunchtime. They're going to be introducing all the new bills that they're trying to balance our bill being considered issue. So I hope we all get tax cuts. And I hope that from being under all right, over the weekend, it was a deadly weekend. Over the weekend, all of them were gun. Shot traffic stop in Virginia. This year, what was the play that came from Boston that had the big wild hair, made him shave and get cleaned up? So, but end of February, so 6 officers killed every month. That's too much. So Texas, one for was totally uncalled for. So caught up in the end, keep going. One by gunfire, one struck by vehicle.